This is what we've accomplished in 2016. The Clemson study has been completed. It's in the process of peer review, and we're excited and crossing our fingers and hoping to have it published in a military mental health journal in January of this year. We wrapped up our shared evaluation project. We will talk about that at length later, but to date we've collected over 1,200 responses on 30 different questions. And if I was better at math, I would tell you how many data points that was. And we also, we exceeded our 20% growth. I anticipate that we'll probably have 80 members, that's just 3 more members, by January, and that's a modest estimate. I think we have 3 or 4 in the pipeline right now. And then we formed a lot of strategic partnerships. This is the biggest part of the strategy, and I guess the cornerstone of the R4 concept is why reinvent the wheel? So we had all these aspirations to do things with R4, and we saw that it was going to be a ton of work. It was going to take a lot of resources. And then we start finding partners that pop up that we find out that's what they focus on. So rather than trying to reinvent the wheel ourselves, we're bringing in great organizations that can complement what we're doing and help provide services to you. Some of those include the Psycho, that's an autocorrect, Psych Armor Institute, Challenge America, Unite Us, America Serves, Beaver Hollow, Outrider USA, the Association of Outdoor Recreation Educators, and a host of others that many of which you'll be meeting and seeing demos on today, and you'll see at the exhibition this afternoon. So for our resources, this is the R that talks about what we do for our members. We have developed our research library. For those of you that haven't checked it out, we have over 80 research articles on our website, cataloged and documented so that you can search through by category. And the intent of this was to kind of a twofold approach. One was to provide our members with a one-stop shop where you can go and find the efficacy, the evidence base you need to write your case for support, to have neat little figures and statistics to cite on grant applications and things along those lines. The other one is to show the up-and-coming movement that is recreation and wellness services for veterans. There's some articles about recreation and wellness services, is the majority of the articles on there. Some about traumatic brain injury, post-traumatic stress, MST, things along those lines. The exciting thing about the research library is I would say probably 80 or 90% of those articles about recreation and wellness have been conducted since 2013. And so it shows the movement, and it shows what we need to get our arms around as an alliance. We have formed some online education partnerships. We'll be talking about those more, but we have some great opportunities with Psych Armor and with Challenge America. And then it's still an aspiration of R4 to provide some R4 specific ones as well. But for right now, we have a lot of resources through these valuable partnerships. And then finally, the last new R is reintegrate. And that is where we will be talking about our coordinated care network. We'll get into that later, but we have got that ball rolling, and it's our hope in the next year to be rolling that out and getting all of our members on with it. So, is that the end of it? Last slide. So, we're going to continue that 20% growth for our research initiative. Coming forward this year, we have a proposal from RAND Corporation that we're going to be working to raise some money for, and we'll get into more details about the RAND proposal a little bit later. We're going big with the 2017 conference, and Kathy, Egan, and Jenny will be telling you about that a little bit later. It's the one we've always dreamed of. We're excited for it. And we're also going to pursue more collaborative fundraising opportunities. More opportunities where our members can get involved, raise money through R4 initiatives for themselves and for our collective goals simultaneously. And then the reintegration goal for 2017 is to fully launch the Coordinated Care Network and get our members onboarded to where we can provide a network of services through our membership instead of individualized, disparate efforts. This is your alliance. I always say this. Sometimes we hear this, us and them sometimes, between our members and R4. It's not us and them. It is us. We are our membership, and we can't do anything without you all. This year is going to be a big breakout year for R4, and it's going to require a lot of boots on the ground support. We're going to be providing all of our members with some, I believe, really amazing tools that'll help you streamline services, that'll help you provide better services to your clients, things along those lines. But it doesn't work unless people are proactive about using it. And so we're going to be asking our members to roll up their sleeves and help us get through some of these kinks so that we can get a seamless network and other resources out there and functioning on all cylinders. And success is an allied effort. So that's just a quick update and overview of 2016, a little bit about what we're going into in 2017. The rest of the conference is going to be chock full of details on all of these different initiatives that I just mentioned. So next on the agenda, I'm excited to introduce you to a guy that we've been trying to get to come to an R4 conference for like 4 years. I got aroused a little bit. I'm good friends with Matt Staton. He and I met years ago, I think in 2010 at an AW2 conference. And we've just stayed in contact since then. I had the honor of having him come out and join us for a rafting trip when I was with Higher Ground. And he's going to tell us a little bit about the point of view of the Office of the Secretary of the Army, a little bit about his personal experiences. And so I'd like to introduce you guys to the Special Assistant to the Secretary of the Army, Mr. Matt Staton.
Thank you guys, and I don't know if it was fortunate or unfortunate for Bert, but if any of y'all know Bert and has had the opportunity to spend any time with him, I was stuck with him on the Middle Fork of the Salmon River for a week, fishing and whitewater rafting. So I got to see his good sides and his bad sides.
I've been there with that.
I only joke with you, Bert, and I always feel sorry for your wife. And she has to put up. But no, I've known Bert for several years here, and I've had the fortune of actually being along the way as R4 has gotten off the ground and to where it is today. And on behalf of my current boss, Secretary Fanning, and my previous two bosses, Secretary McHugh and Secretary Guerin, have been around the primary of our conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan. They truly appreciate what you do as individual organizations and what R4 has done as a collaborative goal to bring you together and make you a much more powerful voice, because, and the old saying, it takes a village to raise your kids. It's the same principle for us, is we, the Army, we, the Department of Defense, cannot do anything and everything without your support as American citizens, but as organizations to support our soldiers, sailors, Marines, airmen, and our Coast Guards. Because I wish we had an unlimited budget and we could do everything, but we can't. So we truly appreciate that. From our perspective, like I said, we appreciate it, but we also know that we have to rely on it. Especially in these times, as no matter your political goals or persuasions, it is the fact that we live under austere measures within the Department of Defense. I know several months ago you saw where we had to draw back on our family services provided by us because our budgets are shrinking. And we have to rely much more on you as an organization to help support not only our soldiers, but their family members. And with that, I want to give you a little story about myself. I know my bio's in the book, it's quick, brief, but I'm that human face that a lot of you get to interact with, but sometimes they're not as successful as me. And what makes me successful and why another better not successful, we don't know. But I will challenge you here shortly on what I think will help those along the way be as successful as myself and other veterans. I grew up in the mountains of Virginia, Central Virginia. Don't know if many of you know it, that area, but for me, 4 hours, I can have any type of environment that I want. If I want the mountains, I want rivers, I want fishing, I want lakes, or I can go to the east side of the state, I can be in the ocean, I can be at the beach. So for me, that aspect of being outdoors, growing up, and having that recreational type of environment. I mean, I hunt, I fish, I canoed, I swam, I did all of that. I played football in high school, I ran track in high school, I wrestled in high school, I played Division I football for VMI, I wrestled for VMI, and that was where I grew. I have a very strong military background in my family, minus my father, who could not serve in the Vietnam conflict because my dad, unfortunately, even as today, cranks out kidney stones like some of you might eat cheeseburgers. And I get, he can have as many as 6 to 10 a year. Unfortunately, dealing with one right now. So for most of the people, they'll tell you having kidney stones and you're laid out before. My dad barely looks like he's breaking a sweat nowadays. So having grown up with that is my family, my great grandfathers, my grandfathers, my great uncles, World War I, World War II background. I have a great uncle who was on the original cadre for the Air Force Academy. He's one of the NCOs there, the Air Force Academy, because he started out in the Army Air Corps, then it transitioned to the Air Force. So that background is in my DNA. So from a young age, my family knew I was going in the military. Because I ran around in camouflage, I played all kinds of war games, loved it. And my daughter, to this day, laughs. She's 11 now, but she still has the plastic M16 that I had growing up. The only thing it's broken on is the carry handle up on the top. And most days people would, she's running around with an actual gun. No, it's just a plastic M16. It doesn't have the orange thing on it or anything. It's over, shoot, I just turned 40, so it's probably 35 years older or older. With that. In that sense, that's what built me. That's where I come from. So imagine I graduate VMI. I turn down my commission. I go enlisted. I spend 2+ years in Vicenza, Italy, prior to 9/11. So on 9/11, I'm standing in the miles warehouse, drawing our miles gear, which is laser tag. If you have never been exposed to that, for us in the military, it is our equipment. It's exactly like laser tag. We put it on our vehicles, we wear it, and it's how we train. I'm in the miles warehouse. It's roughly 2 o'clock in Germany at the time. We have finished our live fire exercise in Grafenwehr, Germany. We're rotating down Hohenfels. Half the unit's still in Grafenwehr, half of us are down in Hohenfels at this point. As the Advon, drawing our equipment, and I happen to be one of the only company armorers that transfers for down early to draw ammunition for some of our live fires that we need to do down at Hohenfels. With that, I'm standing in a small warehouse, and one of the guys that works there walks up and he's like, "Look at this." He's got a printout of the first plane flying into the World Trade Center towers. And to us, I find this ironic because it was a clear day, skies are clear. I've been to New York. I've got photos at the base of the towers, by that walk bridge that goes across the street to the Trade Center Plaza. And I'm like, who's the idiot that flew a plane into that tower? I mean, it's not like you couldn't miss it. They're huge. Well, then the second plane hits, and we know something's up. But unbeknownst to a lot of folks, all communications outside the United States were cut off. The reason you guys couldn't call out in the U.S. is because we, the military, cut it off. I could call back and stuff, but they brought all our families in Vicenza and told us, don't expect your husbands and your wife back anytime soon. Because we were the only airborne unit outside the U.S. other than the Special Forces group in Europe. We had our marching orders the very next day to go to Afghanistan. Most people are like, what? Did they hit us that quickly? Yes, they did. because there was the chatter, there was all the telltale signs after the fact. We were fortunate enough, though, we did not go into Afghanistan right away because we could have gone in, taken Kandahar airfield like they had planned, but Afghanistan is landlocked. We'd have been on our own after 72 hours because they wouldn't have been able to properly resupply us. So they went with a much slower approach, having the SF guys go in and soften the battlefield, and then we rolled in several months later. So I did not deploy then. At that point in time, I had already put in my packet to go back to OCS, Officer Candidate School. If you remember, I said I graduated from the Virginia Military Institute, VMI. That is one of the top 7 schools that provides all of our officers within the military in the ROTC program. That includes the 3 academies, West Point, Annapolis, and the Air Force Academy. So with that, I went back through OCS and IOBC. And of course, when I was going through OCS, you get that wish list and they tell you, hey, guess what, Matt? You can choose what MOS you want for being an officer. And of course, my battalion commander comes to me and tells me, he goes, but Matt, let me preface this. You're in the infantry, you're already jump master qualified, you have all these specialty schools behind your belt. The infantry branch is not going to let you go. So I was like, all right, let me put infantry. And this is how much the infantry branch was not going to let me go. I left my unit in Vicenza, Italy. The first set of orders I got as a brand new second lieutenant was to go right back to the same unit I just left as an NCO to command it as a second lieutenant. So I actually said, no thanks, I need to switch orders because that's the guys I've been drinking vino with every Friday night because living in Italy, it's great. I take my bottles, I can walk downstairs to the market, get fresh wine, and have fresh wine for the next week. So for me, I wanted a different experience. I switched with a fellow lieutenant and took an assignment at Fort Carson, Colorado, the mechanized unit, because I already knew I've been jumping out of airplanes for 2 years. My knees, my back's hurt, and if anybody says there is a proper parachute landing fall, they've been hit too many times in the head from those parachute landing falls. I have literally bounced on a drop zone, jumping into it. And I didn't even know it. My guys ran over to me going, hey, Sergeant Staton, are you okay? You bounced. I was like, what do you mean I bounced? Well, like, you hit so hard, you bounced up in the air and came back down. I was like, oh, I just thought I had a hard landing. So you get those kind of those camaraderie, those experiences in the military. So fast forward. I'm now a brand new second lieutenant with the 4th Infantry Division, 3rd Brigade, 1/8 Infantry in Balad, Iraq. I'm running around, feeling invincible, feeling like there's nothing that can happen to me. I've been in close range firefights to as close as you ladies right here in front of me, and I've never been hit. I'm now, January 29th, we've lifted the stop loss. We started the R&R program. I'm out on an ambush with my guys. Bradleys are 1,500 meters over the hardball road. We're set up, allowing the Chinook helicopters to go over top of us in the Balad airfield so we could find the guys that were shooting RPGs at their tail sections as they flew by. Well, my security guy had 2 Iraqis walk up on him. They didn't even know that he was laying right there in the weeds next to them. They're smoking and joking on a canal road. So I grabbed the team leader and we move out to get him. I had a tack light, flashlight. Totally going to disrupt your night vision. All you're going to see is spots after that. Get it, give them the Arabic commands to get down, and all of a sudden, from behind their backs, both of them had 2 AK-47s on their backs, but they had their little cotton jackets over top of it. They just grabbed them and did what's called the old spray and pray method. They just sprayed in our direction that they thought we were. I took 6 rounds. First round entered my left leg, just below the vest, and went in and lodged itself next to my finger, the other 5 diagonally across my chest into the plate. So there I was. I think a rock's gonna hit me. I took another 6 steps at them shooting. My team leader was standing next to me. You followed the military. He was Sergeant Briggs at the time. He is now Sergeant First Class Briggs. He has won the Ranger competition twice. Best Ranger competition twice. It is to the point that we no longer allow anyone who's won to repeat and take it again. But because he was looking at trying to do it a 3rd time. That tells you the caliber of soldiers I have and had with me around me. My gunner, who was on my Bradley, said all of a sudden they saw the green tracers, which is most Russian ammunition, has a green phosphorus in it that burns, trace around to kind of pinpoint fire when you're shooting bullets. We use red in the U.S. military. He said all of a sudden I saw a couple green, and then he says I saw your magazine of 30 tracers. My first magazine was 30 rounds of tracer ammunition. Typically it's 1 every 4 rounds. I had a solid magazine because my guys knew if I opened up with that magazine, all their fires went to where I was shooting. He said it looked like the 4th of July. Because when I opened up, we peppered these guys with enough rounds that should have killed them. Now these guys came at us high on speed. My guys found them the next day after I'd been medevac. So here I am, walking along, this happens, I take 6 steps, I fall in a mud puddle, I roll over, and I'm like, what is wrong with my leg? I reach down, feel where the pain's at, and I had blood go through the leather on my Nomex glove. When the bullet went in, this is your ball of your femur, fits in your hip socket like this. It struck the femoral neck, where most older folks break. It's called stress fracture region of the femoral neck. It struck that, shaved off bone, went to the back side of the bone where your femoral artery sits, stopped 1 millimeter from the femoral artery, then tumbled all the way around the front side of my bone and stopped on the opposite side of my femoral artery, 1 millimeter front. It's to the point, at the time in 2004, we did not have the medical equipment in the theater to be able to pull it out without either killing me or me totally losing my leg. So I was medevaced from Balad down to Baghdad. I then caught the first bird the next morning to Germany. The bullet was not removed until 28 hours later in Germany for my first surgery. I've had 4 surgical procedures on the leg. Bert was fortunate enough that in 2010, I had enough of the pain. I had enough, and I went to the VA. They said, guess what? You're out of our league. What does that to say when the VA orthopedic doc for one of the top 4 hospitals goes, you're out of our league? We're sending you next door to VCU to be teaching specialist. So I'm one of those abnormalities where the VA gives me exception care. They sent me to VCU. He did a total reconstruction short of replacement. He cleaned the joint, cleaned the ball. He reattached my labrum because I'm that party joker. Because of the damage, you could stick a fork in my thigh and we'll keep our conversation going and I won't miss a beat. Because I actually had no feeling in all of my thigh and my hip because of the damage. I'm missing 2/3 of my growing muscle. So for me, it's, you stick a fork in it, I can step off a curb, shatter my hip, won't feel a thing. So there's some benefits, there's not some. With that, I'm going through this. He gets me out of surgery. It's 7 years post wounds. I went running for the first time in 7 years. I was off my cane. I was off my Segway. Yes, I have a Segway to run around the Pentagon on. And the running joke is there's 5 of us combat wounded veterans in the Pentagon that have them. We can take ours in and out of the Pentagon. The Pentagon Force Protection Police have them. They can't come inside the building. So they're always getting mad at me. I then was like, I need to work with myself. I need to get back into things that helped me feel who I was growing up and when I came in the military. So right after that surgery, I went out to Recreational, Colorado for the Harper Ski Spectacular. I had never skied in my life. I grew up 45 minutes from a ski slope in Virginia, but never skied growing up. They took me from a beginner skier to an intermediate level skier in 6 days. Came back, they got me linked into a local nonprofit, Winter Green Adaptive Sports, and I ran with it. I bit that and was gone. I was also fortunate that same year to come out and do the Middle Fork of the Salmon River. I started getting back into the things that I knew I needed. So with all that, I look at it today and I go, I was glad I did that. I was glad I took that step. Now married to my beautiful bride, Jenny. We've been married almost 2 years. I have a 11-year-old daughter from a previous marriage. The running joke is I dated my parole officer and married my therapist. My wife, when I met her, was a parole officer. She is now an LCP. She just finished up doing her residence hours. So, like I always say, I dated my parole officer, married my therapist because, oh geez, do I get therapized every day when I come home. And I laugh at it because I love that. But what has that allowed me to do? I am now a level 1 PSIA adaptive ski instructor. I am a PADI assistant instructor for scuba diving. I am a HSA handicapped scuba buddy. I have multiple specialties in all the adaptive realms of both skiing and scuba diving. And literally tomorrow I'll fly home. Thursday I pick up my brand new horse trailer, and guess what? I'm going to Kentucky so I can pick up my wife's first course for her equine therapy business that she'll be doing. So we each have, like I work for the Secretary of the Army, but we each have that calling to give back to our communities. So like Chip was saying, building on that formula and looking at that human capital. Look at those veterans that are coming through your program like me. Look at those veterans, that human capital that you've got that you're serving. Getting that flash to bang one-time effort of getting them in, getting them back to active is great. But what is the long-term goal for them? Because their long-term goal is to feel that sense of camaraderie, that sense of mission, that sense of purpose. And if you don't capitalize on that, you're missing an opportunity of a group or a population of volunteers that will gladly give back. And I don't know, is Susan Oglesby here? I was your group just this weekend in your tank. As I said, I'm a scuba instructor. I was just down at the Georgia Aquarium this weekend, Sunday. We dove with the whale sharks. I was able to lead a group of 7 of my peers and myself back in the tank. If you want to take a chance, go to Sea Adventures in Atlanta, their Facebook page. They have the video up from our dive this weekend. It's a great program. But I chuckled some of the veterans. They got out, and they were like, one of them, Tony, he's there with his wife, and he looks at me and goes, Matt, I could kiss you right now. I'm like, no, Tony, kiss your wife. Because they had that great of an experience. But Tony and his wife Tanya are both veterans. and they also have given back as ski instructors of Liberty Mountain. They are hoping to build upon their diving skills to be able to give back. So take a look at that human capital, but also look at those partnerships. Build those partnerships amongst multiple organizations, because you alone are not going to be able to provide the services, because the Georgia Aquarium, Sea Adventures, Patriots for Disabled Divers, Patriots Scuba, who is the shop and owners that also have PFDD, who I work with, help capitalize on those organizations to get those soldiers out and to continue their career, because what are you trying to grow? A productive veteran. Because if a veteran has that ability to reintegrate into their community and feel welcome and to feel like they've got that mission, they're not part of that statistic. We're fortunate enough it's now down to 20. But that's 20 a day too many. So as you're looking at collaborating, capitalize on those things that Chip mentioned in that formula. Human capital, building those partnerships, because those will help you build upon your organizations and this alliance as a whole. So with that, I like to, in my speech, because this is a small intimate group, I want to open it up to questions from you, because not only it's nice to hear me talk, it's nice to hear what my boss and them think about integrating you helping us help our veterans and our soldiers as they transition out. But I love feedback from you. And also, I'm around all day. So if you don't get a chance to ask a question, you want to ask it later, feel free to grab me, other than when Bob's got me for a video he wants to do later. Feel free, but I want to open this up, and Bert, I'm going to kind of put you on the spot and ask you to ask the first question of things that we, the Army, could take away from this. How can we help integrate more into our soldiers?
I think, hopefully I'm asking this question on behalf of a lot of members that I've had conversations with. I think one of the big questions that we always wonder about is, we hear a lot about public-private collaboration. We hear a lot about partnering with the VA, with the DOD, and there's a lot of active duty and transition, wounded warrior battalions, things along those lines. How do we forge that bond? How do we forge that relationship, and how do we bring our services to base?
Okay. We as the Army, I cannot go, hey, I got Private Snuffy, here's what he needs. I can't ask you that. I'm prohibited by law. However, a lot of our key linchpins are, several of our warrior transition units have a recreational therapist or an individual filling that role within the warrior transition units. They are a good linchpin who can say, okay, if you tell me what service you have, I can then marry up the soldiers. Another good program is our Army Wounded Warrior program. It's the advocacy, the advocates who are not only at our installations, but they are in your states. They may not be physically in your state because they may be at our headquarters in DC, but they are advocates who help provide us services in transition. Those are folks with a 30% disability or a 50% or greater, in the 802 advocates who can help them. But our warrior transition units will help any of our soldiers that require that 6 months or greater of rehabilitative care.
Regarding the warrior transition units, and the other one you said was the Wounded Warrior Regiment?
No. Army Wounded Warrior Program. Same thing as the Wounded Warrior Regiment, but that's the Marine Corps.
Yeah, that's what I'm familiar
Yes.
with, the Army. I've been reaching out to some people in the Phoenix, Arizona area trying to find resources for Army veterans. If I was going to find more information about this, would I find it on a particular website?
Yes, you can go to Warrior Transition Command, or you can go to the Army Wounded Warrior Program. put those in Google or AW2, and those websites will populate for you to be able to pull those.
Great, thank you.
We use right there as part of our program. We actually do about military and I reached out to many of the senior lawyer registrar folders. And right now, our enough about it. We're told that they can safety or information system. So they're being gatekeepers, and I don't know how you get past that, because we don't have that, we're just right there in your gap.
What it's supposed to occur, because when you're telling me I don't want to hear, because that's my job.
I'm bringing it up, and I'm not
Yes.
one of the judges.
My job is I get to be the bad guy in the office on our commands. Is you're supposed to come to us and say, these are the services I can offer. I know that you can't tell me names, but I want to allow you to know about us, and feel free to, if some of your soldiers can benefit from our programs, then do so. And that's what they're supposed to do. Then they're supposed to promote all the programs and say, hey guys, here are programs in our area, whether recreational therapy or whether it be retreats to help families reintegrate. They're supposed to provide those as, hey, here are a list of services. You can, if you have not gone through with the National Resource Directory, which is maintained by the Warrior Care and Transition Policy Office and the Office of Secretary of Defense. They run it. It is currently under a retrofit because we in DoD owned it. We then passed it to the VA. The VA has now passed it back to us. So with all the IT integrations, we have to reintegrate it back into us. So there is some delay if you're trying to put your information on there and getting it there. I know talking to Secretary Rodriguez should hopefully be done by the end of the month, that retrofit, and we should be able to have it fully mission capable and running. That is our resource directory, is kind of that one-stop shop that we push out to all of the services to provide a list of services within the program. Another aspect is looking at your own state. Like Virginia, we have and they just changed their name, I'm drawing a blank on it, but they used to be the Virginia's Wounded Warrior Resource. I don't know for what they've changed their name to, but most states have a veterans program that you can push your information to help promote your program and get the word out there. With the Wounded Warrior Regiments at the Marine Corps, you can, same as our Warrior Transition Units, you need to find who is the recreational therapist or the rec program provider and have them talk with them.
Can I add something? I used to be Sergeant Major of the Warriors at the time for Camp Lejeune. And what the Marine Corps has is we have our own charitable org representative within the battalion. And all the charitable organizations or nonprofit organizations, veterans organizations, go through the charitable rec for the Marine Corps. So both battalions got it on the West Coast and on the East Coast. And there's also one at the Warriors Regiment. So that one's for the Marine Corps. We have a charitable organization representative that handles that.
So two, West Coast, East Coast.
Yeah, West Coast, East Coast, and Quantico.
Yes, so we actually got three of them, but that's just on the Marine Corps side.
Yeah, and let me preface this, is you may promote your organization. Remember, each time this is what I call, just for your own edification, the legal loophole. If they are an active duty service member, they will, even though you may have been cleared by the National Resource Director, may be cleared by all your proper paperwork for your services, each individual soldier, sailor, airman still requires a legal review. Just like when I travel to a conference like this, I have my own attorney within the Office of General Counsel at the Department of the Army level because I am a wounded service member. So there is legislation that says if I need 4 houses, literally I can accept 4 houses as a wounded veteran. But oh, wait a minute, Matt is also a government civilian employee. So that's why each of them, so if you run across that, that is why. Each soldier, even though your organization is approved, they could go on the trip, they meet the intent, they still have to have that legal review. So I just bring that up so that you understand. That's why, so if you see them going, well, I got to get a legal review, that's the reason for it. We still have to do it to ensure.
To your point, releasing that a special operations person not be able to attend the retreat because he still has to do, he is not allowed to accept the debt. Is the value of the retreat for his family was $64,000. And he's not allowed to accept that debt from.
That's correct, because there is specific legislation for combat wounded guys, girls, and there is specific legislation for all others. So understand those may be some of those legal loopholes that our soldiers and sailors may have to go through to be able to accept your gift to attend if they're on active duty. If they're in veteran status, give away, because they are a retired civilian. They can accept all day long, but I just do bring that up. It is the rule book that we have to follow. I wish it was easier, but because we are government officials, no matter whether they're private or a general, or a civilian such as myself, there are certain statutes that we have to follow. The only way we could get those statutes to change would be engaging your congressional leadership. And that's...
So how can R4 change the law?
Yeah. And that could be a topic that you take on. Do you want to have them change the National Defense Authorization Act to implement those specific changes? Like I said, there is specific legislation for combat wounded soldiers, and then everyone else falls underneath the regular gift regulations. Yes.
You know, damn well that their medical files are this time because they're not going to say that they're PTSD or they're anything. So you're talking about something that's, especially for the guys who are in the front lines, it's nothing, they're getting nothing. And then they end their career, which my husband for 25 years. And now it's the situation come up with the knee and the ankle and everything. That really disturbs me that that's how our government treats the people that we're raising from.
If I can offer, this, without making my videos, he was in the Navy. And we ended up with a wife on the phone because I don't want to make this sound okay, so the client that has to do he is not for women and how to say it, there's a few that we see it for food. So he apparently appears that the needs is just regular frontline review. And I asked his wife, I said, don't understand why this law is there, because it's like they like it to accept his life. This is the dark negative side of it. You can consider like you accepted your body. Now I've been convinced to God for 10 years.
Well,
So she oversimplified it that way, but that was the feedback he got when she terminated. So yes, can our court change this thinking?
yeah, I would say advocate to help us change it, because we as a military can and try to make our efforts and changes. That's why the combat wounded legislation was done. We were able to change it. However, we need that partnership with you to tell us, hey, we're getting this many cases of folks that can accept our legislation. And I would say that would be something that our court could take on.
think there's a couple of workarounds for that. I worked as the director at 65 at Balboa when C5 started. So if someone is in a treatment program, those rules are out the door. You know, as far as that dollar value. I took as fishing in Alaska, I took as the Seaspan in Breckenridge, and any number of other events. But I think the workaround for the active duty soldier that has, or sailor or marine that has not declared PTSD and is not actively being treated for it, but is dealing with it, maybe the connection is through the KCO, or not KCO, the Chaplain's Corps program. So the Chaplain's Corps does retreats. So if there's a connection with them, then that retreat, the cost of that retreat is up for too, because it's being routed through the Chaplain's Corps.
If their funding's at 75%.
But those events, well, if they can't fund them, but those events are still there, the connection is with the Chaplain's Corps.
Just run.
Well, like you said, that legal review still occurred in most soldiers.
Sure.
It still occurs if they're in an active treatment program. They can then accept, as long as it doesn't conflict with their job.
Right.
Most infantry soldiers, it's not going to conflict with, unless they're in a position of what I call procurement, meaning they're in that supply officer. They're in that where that legal review would need to be done.
Right.
Does that legal review take place across all branches?
Yes. For protocols, all branches.
That's an incredibly sad story to hear about roadblocks. I'm going to bring up another roadblock in, and I really appreciate the efforts of R4, the collaboration, which is access to military bases and medical centers. Our program is a small adaptive kayaking program, but we're in a lot of locations. We've had some difficulty getting access on the bases, using the resources the bases have. We've had to close resources. Balboa, we closed the pool paddling events there because we get on the base. Getting access to the base is very difficult. Using the pools is difficult. So anything that you can do to help adaptive sports actually be an active player on military bases for some of these active duty individuals that do those sports would be very difficult.
That's something we can look at in our command programs, the education to provide our commanders when they're going through pre-command courses to understand some of those aspects of engaging those outside entities.
A good example would be Fort Carson. Those command forces actually met with us, were very receptive and open. They make it a lot easier for us to get through the gate with a trailer full of kayaks and use a pool on the base. So it's really, that's very helpful to us. But that's one base. So other bases have much more stricter rules.
It's not that they have stricter rules. A lot of it is at the discretion of the installation commander.
That's it.
And if I had to say, that is the one individual I would engage with in your program. If you are having those troubles, engage with that installation commander. Also, you can engage with our CASAs, and they are our civilian aides to the Secretary of the Army. They are our civilian leaders in the communities. They are on an appointment. They're called CASAs, civilian aides to the Secretary of the Army. They are local, individual business leaders and folks within your states and your communities that can help facilitate that interaction. They are our effort to engage the business communities, the local communities, the chambers of commerce, and use them to help you bridge those gaps because they interact directly with that installation chain of command. CASA. C-A-S-A. Civilian aides to the Secretary of the Army. They can help bridge those rough patches.
So you're saying that the CASAs are predominantly more of a fixture there as opposed to someone that goes in and out of these positions of leadership? That changes every so often. Those CASAs, for the most part, are more stationary and be a better contact. We still have to rely on them and being able to get the story through to them. But as opposed to, say, a commander saying, well, this isn't his pet project over here, therefore it's not going to be done. Go through a CASA, it doesn't matter whether that guy is in or out, the CASA himself can see to it that the program can be more stable, as it were.
That's correct. We have them on an appointment of typically 4 or 8 years. Some of our CASAs have been in there for longer.
4
than
to
that.
8 usually.
Yes.
Thanks.
It's typically 4 to 8 years. We either reconfirm their appointments or they are moved into an emeritus status and they are in that community. They are, I would use Dr. Rory Cooper. He is a very large advocate in the adaptive arena for engineering at Pittsburgh. Him and his wife, he runs an engineering lab there. But he has been instrumental in helping us in the Army. So he is our Pittsburgh CASA. He is that entity. They are, some of them are Fortune 500 companies, owners. Some of them, and they do this separate from their organization, but they are a bridge that is more permanent within your local states to help you in that arena.
Yes, sir. I was the first sergeant for a Warrior Transition Unit, and I'm not advocating anyone do this, but I'll tell you what I did. I learned long ago that when you're taking care of wounded and combat veterans, that sometimes you got to be willing to take the hit. So I learned I'd rather ask forgiveness than permission. And whenever anybody offered anything to my soldiers, I made sure they were there and said, if anyone comes to you and says, why did you go on this trip to Santiago, Chile, tell them to come see the first sergeant, and I'll explain to them why. And that's I'm not saying that's the way to do it. I'm just saying that was my part, and I was going to do whatever I could to help these kids. And so I was willing to take the hit.
I'm just wondering, if you were to take a look at certain specific services that would meet the criteria that would allow the Army to have an active duty person participate in a type of therapy or service, what would that list be?
We don't have a set list, meaning if you're providing equine therapy, is that an approved list that they could go do? Specifically to the mental health arena, there is an additional loophole to that, and this is something that we are actively working through. Is because it is a medical service provider, we're hamstrung by the fact that we have to internally try to provide that medical service first for that soldier, sailor, or marine, or whatever. And I don't want to pick on SOCOM, but SOCOM has had this problem because they are away from all of the service branches. In a sense, they have had this biggest trouble trying to get the services for the SOCOM soldiers, and they've run into this legal loophole. We think we've corrected it so that our soldiers, and all of them, can partake of your services, even if it's a mental health or what I call a healthcare-based delivery of a service, meaning whether it be therapy, physical therapy, occupational therapy, recreational therapy, mental health services provided, that we have worked through that and had that additional review.
How would an organization find that gap in service in their, how would they locate that gap in service?
A lot of times, that's that interaction with the CASA to the local chain of command. That working group, they have a lot of working groups can work at that, and then at the Surgeon General level. If you are noticing something, and I would gladly open this up, and it is part of my job is to interact with you individually, but if you want to funnel it as an organization through R4 so that we have a much, what I call a broader base of cases to look at, so I'm not looking at the eaches, I'm looking at a trend, that helps us as well. Because typically the eaches, we handle them as the each, and we consider it an individual case. However, it may be a trend that we're not seeing.
Is there a way, as an alliance, that we, our whole point is unite our voice and represent as an industry. Is there a way as an alliance to start building the rapport with these different cases and things along those lines? And is there a way on a larger scale to let it be known, make a relationship across and say, hey, we've got members in your area, or if our members come to us and say, hey, we're looking for a point of contact on Fort Carson or on Lejeune or wherever, is there a way for us to have a directory of sorts or anything that tells us who the current command and who the points of contact are?
For our Warrior Transition Command or our Army Wounded Warrior Program, those lists are maintained at the DC offices. And we can gladly provide you an individual contact. And granted, those contacts may change over because 18 months to 3 years with our military folks who may be in a position. But we do have civilian counterpart contacts that have been there for 10, 12 years.
Okay.
Those can gladly be provided.
So to answer one of your questions, getting onto the military installations, unfortunately, we live in a world that there are bad organizations out there that are not doing the right thing. And so even when I was at Balboa, there were organizations that we did not allow on the base because they were taking advantage of our service members. And that unfortunately affects all of us. And that's what, being a part of this R4 Alliance, we are programs of excellence. So is working together, now we reach out to the military installations and say, well, all right, this is a R4 one of the programs or a member of the R4 Alliance, and that's how we build the reputation that as a member of the R4 Alliance, you are a standard of excellence, and that's how we're going to get into these bases. Potter and I were in DC, and we talked with Colonel Rock at the Soldier for Life program, and that's one of the things that we talked about was having access to, we want to have access to them before they get out so that we can have a seamless transition as they're getting, after they get out, making sure that they have the care and the resources that they need, because we all know it's hard enough for them to find us. So each of these organizations in their local communities. So that's why building this programs of excellence with the R4 and getting that out there to all of these. So now any installation that you go to, oh, you're a member of the R4, well, we know that you've already been vetted, that you're doing a great job, and now that you're going to open up the access to all of these bases. And there are certain bases that, you still have, and it's about building relationships. So if one organization that's local to that facility already has a relationship, and we have a relationship within the R4, that's where it's a collaboration and working together. And I'll tell you that it's happened on a number of times. My organization gets invited to Fort Bragg every single year for their family readiness programs, all of these different things. We're constantly getting calls because we've already had that relationship and built in. McDill is another one, Jacksonville is another one. And once you build those relationships, it pretty much opens up the doors. But it doesn't just open up the door for you, it opens up the doors for the other organizations that you're working with.
I think, and I appreciate that R4 is, and that's one of the reasons why we wanted to be a part of R4. But I think you just mentioned it, command changes. And so we were very welcome at Balboa, is the one I'm talking about. And then it closed down, command changed, and it was a change in the viewpoint of what our organization, which had been there for 5 or 6 years. So you can build a relationship, but it's going to be up to the top down to be able to say, hey, when the command changes, this small little thing, there may be a lot of us here, but in the greater country, adaptive sports is still small, and it needs to be more recognized. I appreciate what you're doing.
I wanted to mention too, real quick, to your point about you guys went and met with them because the change needs to happen before they get out of active duty. That resource needs to be there, and so that's what we're trying to do. But if R4 is going to do something on a national level, because you could even go bigger and go to some of these outposts around the world, figuring out a place where all of us know about things that we need in our individual areas. But every single state needs this because there are soldiers that go to every single state, all 4 branches. So we're trying to do a combined thing in Phoenix where we have a place where people can transition. They can get from active duty and go there before they go out into the civilian world. And that's kind of what's needed. So what you're doing needs to happen on a bigger scale. And if it's a combination of active duty, government, Army, Marine Corps, all the branches, and the CASA, where there's ownership from the civilian sector and from the military, I think it would make more sense, because then you have combined funds happening.
Yeah, and that's why we met with the Soldier for Life program, which is before they get out and after they get out and all that. And,
Yeah.
and that's where, and
It
we're
needs to
working
happen,
with
you
them.
know,
We're
nationwide.
trying to build those relationships. And Colonel
Yeah.
Rock is a great guy, and he's really advocating for it.
So I just want to wrap this up. I'm going to save any other questions because I want to keep you guys on track or schedule. If you have questions, I'm here all day and into this evening. Feel free, catch me on the side, please, and do so. And thank you for your points. Thank you for your efforts to help my peers who go through a life-changing event that is not on their roadmap of how they planned it. But at the same time, I want to challenge each of you. Grab those folks, pull them into your organization, give them an opportunity to find that mission and give back to their peers. Thank you.
And to the point, Chip was talking earlier about boiling the ocean. I think in order for us as an alliance to get that national reputation, R4alliance, as our 1.5 paid staff members and volunteer board, don't have the voice and the power ourselves to get our national reputation out. So that is our membership going out and parading the fact that they are a member of R4alliance, telling it, shouting it from the mountaintops, and letting them know that we are a united front. Through that, we can eventually build to a point where that next base commander that wasn't familiar with Team River Runner has heard of R4alliance, knows that they're a member, and welcomes them on the base. And I think that that's how we do it as an alliance and not as individual district. So just a bit of soapbox about that. So we're going to take about a 10-minute break and let everybody kind of get up, move around a little bit. We're going to be back in here shooting for
Folks,
10
we'll be
minutes or
back
so,
with
and we're going to
more
start doing some of our demos with our new
R4alliance
partners.
conference in the Villages, Florida. I'm Bob Calvert behind the camera at this moment, talkingwithheroes.com. Thank you for your service. U.S. Please share these videos and more videos coming out. Everybody you can. Thank you.